Hello and welcome to the 16th episode of the Nature's Cozy podcast. My name is Allison and I am the maker behind Nature's Cozy. You can find me by that username on Instagram and on Ravelry. And if this is your first time coming to my video, or if you just randomly stumbled upon it, this is a making video where I mostly talk about knitting and sometimes crochet and sewing. And if this is not your first time, welcome back. Thank you so much to everyone who has consistently come back, who has left comments, liked, subscribed. It really means a lot to me, especially since I've been doing this for a year now, which is pretty crazy. But before we start getting into that, I just kind of wanted to ask how everyone was doing. I know 2021 has kind of started out very interestingly, and I know January has had a lot of ups and downs. And I just kind of hope everyone's still doing okay and that hopefully from here on out the year will get a lot better. Hopefully 2021 will be better than 2020. It is currently January 22nd here and I am still in Chicago. I do plan on going back to Champaign though on Sunday. So I kind of have to get situated and get some things together, but I think I will be still podcasting here in Chicago though, because it's just a little bit easier. And I brought all my yarn up here. So, and all my equipment is going to be up here too. I cannot believe, you guys, that I am starting the last semester of grad school. I am kind of blown away by that. I can't believe it's been 2.5 years since I started, and I just feel like these past few years have flown by super quick. I'm really nervous about what's going to happen once I graduate, but I'm also really excited. I'm really excited to kind of, as much as I love school, I'm also happy to not be in school. And yeah, 26 years of being in school by the time I'm done with my degree, and I am taking a discussion course, so I'm done with my classes, but this is just kind of to take it to learn. It's an hour a week, so I'm actually kind of excited that I'm doing some form of a class for my last semester though. And let's see what else. Besides that, I have been watching a lot of Netflix shows, so I've kind of jumped on the bandwagon with a lot of other people. I watched the last season of Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix, which was kind of bittersweet. If you are a huge fan, I was a huge fan of the original show, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and I really enjoyed the second to last episode, I believe it is, when they kind of bring some of the older cast members back. And then after that, let's see, I watched Bridgerton, and I really enjoyed that show as well. I've been listening to a lot of the string quartet pieces because I love how they took modern songs and made them more classical and stuff. And then I also watched The Queen's Gambit. I've been kind of on a Netflix kick, if you haven't guessed, which I highly recommend too. All the shows that I'm talking about, I really recommend. The Queen's Gambit was it was awesome. I finally watched that because I know other people have been watching it lately, and I know it came out I think back in October, and I kept putting it off. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll watch it, and then I'm really happy that I did. And now I have started The Crown, and I only watched the first 2 episodes. I've actually tried to watch it a couple times before, and I only got past the first 2 episodes, but now I'm kind of really, I think I'm finally in a spot where I'm dedicated to watching it. So yeah, so I'm really excited to kind of catch up with that, especially because I know season 4 was with Princess Diana, and I'm really excited to, I don't know, just kind of watch that story unravel. I am also drinking out of a new mug, and I'm almost done with my morning coffee. Yeah, so it's fairly early. I think it's 9:30. Not too early, but yeah. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about a giveaway. So as I just mentioned earlier, this is 1 year of me podcasting, and I believe this would have been the day that I podcasted because nowadays, like sometimes it takes me 2 days to put up a video, but I really like to try to get it out the day after if I can. But when I first started, I was doing like recording on Wednesdays and uploading on Fridays. So if I uploaded on the 24th, that means I would have recorded on the 22nd. So that's nuts to me that I finally like got the courage. But because of that, I wanted to do a little bit of a giveaway. So before I kind of start talking about the giveaway, I want to talk about who is eligible. I was going back and forth between wanting to make this a international giveaway or if I should just do domestic from, you know, the United States. And I am going to keep it open. So if you are not in the US and you would like to participate, you are more than welcome to. However, I will only cover up to about $10 for shipping, and I would probably want to put tracking on the shipping. So if you really want to enter and if you feel comfortable like paying that difference, please feel free to enter. But if you don't feel comfortable paying that difference, I completely understand. I know that the, you know, postal service, I think like everywhere has just been trying to catch up, and so, you know, I have no idea how long it would take for the yarn to ship out, which is why I also would like to put tracking on it just to make sure that it doesn't get lost. But yeah, so the yarn that I am wanting to give away are 2 skeins of Plucky Knitter, and this is their Traveler Sport weight, and this is called Cruel Summer, and it is 65% superwash merino, 20% mulberry silk, and 15% yak. It's super, super squishy. It's a great yarn. I just, yeah, I just kind of wanted to give it away though. So if you are interested in trying to win these skeins of yarn, what I would ask is that down below you can either comment one of your knitting goals for the year or one of your projects that like you're really excited to knit with this year. And then I will draw the winner out in the next episode. Speaking of yarn, one of my goals for this year is to really do a stash down 2021. I know in 2020 I meant to do a stash down, and then you know, things just didn't go according to plan, and buying yarn made me feel good. And in 2020, everything that helped us make us feel a little bit better, I think, is quite fine. Unless you're harming others, then that's obviously not fine. But yeah, anyways, so I have been starting to go through my stash, and like I said, I have like a lot of yarn. I've been trying to take inventory, and I've been trying to count down my yarn. I still have a couple of like boxes and a bag of yarn that I couldn't finish up that I still need to count. And I think the next time I podcast, I'm gonna let you guys know that number, because I would love to do like quarterly updates of like, this is how much yarn I've used so far. I really don't plan on buying yarn this year. I think there's about like 6 circumstances that I plan on buying yarn, which might seem kind of like odd, but like one of them for instance would be an advent calendar. And then there's a couple of indie dyers that I really want to support, and that's like Sunday Fiber Co. and Naughty Pine Fiber Co. And just like a couple other things that I have in mind. But yeah, I'm really trying not to buy like any yarn if I could, you know, not get persuaded by Instagram. So I have also kind of like have 2 baskets from my homespun house. And like the yarns minus like sweater quantities that I really want to work with next, I like have those in that basket. Of course, if inspiration strikes and I really want to knit with something else, I'm not gonna tell myself not to, but I really want to try to work through what I have in those baskets. And I also think it would be really fun to try and knit a sweater every quarter this year, so hopefully I can do that as well. But I think that's enough about that. I think we should start talking about the actual making. And if you haven't noticed, I am wearing a new pullover. This is my Felix Pullover by Amy Christoffers, and I love it so, so much. I've like made some modifications on the sweater. I am really bad because I feel like if I try to start like going through them all, I'm just gonna lose my train of thought and it's gonna go back and forth. But one modification that I did make was I accidentally did an extra repeat on the sweater. For my size, I wanted to knit the second to largest, and the amount of repeats I did, at least for until I split for the sleeves, was for the largest size. And when I originally was knitting this, I loved it. It fit really well, but after I blocked it, it definitely gave a little bit more positive ease underneath the armpits than I would have preferred. It still fits like well. It doesn't feel like super weird or anything like that, but I just think that some of the, let me just kind of show you guys. So I think some of the design, you can see these are like yarn overs, and it makes this really pretty, it looks like vine, kind of like lacy vines to me. But I think like when I put my arm down, it like bunches up a little bit, and I feel like you lose like some of that design. And so I think next time if I make this, I'm not gonna do this again. I'm like gonna make sure that I knit the right amount of repeats. But yeah, besides that, I really love the sweater. It fits really well. I think the only other thing that I would do differently, because I accidentally just forgot to do it, was, so this calls for like a tubular cast on and then a tubular bind off. And when I bound off for the sleeves, I like totally forgot about it, so I just did a stretchy bind off. And I just think that next time, and I think with all my sweaters now, I'm just gonna do a tubular bind off at least for the sleeves. I just think that it gives it a little bit of a nicer finish, but I mean, it's not like super bothersome to me or anything like that. I will say, like, after I stretched it though, the sleeves like grew a decent amount, because before I stretched it, they were like here, and then after I blocked it, you know, I think from like here to here, I think that's a decent amount for non-superwash yarn. But like the body didn't really stretch out that well. I don't know how that occurred, but it worked out well. I meant to check my gauge before I podcasted, because I know with my modifications that I did, like, so we talked about how I accidentally made a extra repeat, and then what I did was for the bust, I knit the size I originally planned to, and then once I was past the bust, I would slowly increase to the largest size, just to like give my like waist and hip area a little bit more ease, and I think that worked out really well. So yeah, so the only thing I would really change are like just the sleeves and just the repeat. I really like how the neck sits as well. I think I did cast on with a US 4, which is different from the pattern called, because I just like tighter necks, and I think after, again, once I blocked it, I think it worked out better because it's not like super boat neck or anything like that. And yeah, I just really love it. I'm really happy I finally have another finished sweater. This is Brooklyn Tweed in the wool socks on their shelter base, which is a worsted weight. And I think the only other thing I want to say about the sweater is that I would 100% knit this again. And I think, yeah, I don't know. It's also just like super warm. I'm actually kind of getting a little hot wearing it right now, but I'm gonna persevere, so yeah. The next project that I want to talk about isn't knitting, it's actually crochet, and it's just my granny stripe blanket. So if you have been a viewer of the podcast, especially in the early days, I have two granny stripe blankets now. So the first one that I had, I was actually crocheting all of my Christmas Advent yarns that I got, and then I haven't started that yet for my Advent that I got for 2020. But back in November, I just really wanted the urge to cast on another blanket, or like, yeah, I guess like cast on, right? Another blanket, and I have so many scraps and minis that it was like giving me anxiety, and I was just like, I need to like work through these. So I like did it for like a week or two in November, and then I just kind of stopped. And then I got the motivation to do it again. And I think what I'm gonna do is do like scrappy Sundays, like Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady does, and maybe try to do 2 or 3 colors like every Sunday. So you can you can kind of see how my color palette is kind of changing. Also kind of matches my glasses. I got new glasses, guys. Hey. Anyways, so yeah, I started, so this was actually stress knits, and wool, and a lot of these are really just wool bar. I think actually all of the other ones are woolberry, and I have a little Junko that I got from Lock and Lou. But yeah, when I stopped right below it last year, I was like, this is getting really Eastery for me. I need to like put some more neutrals and stuff in there, which now just feels like a 70s blanket. It's like two very different palettes. I think I'm gonna start adding some like greens or maybe like blush pinks or something like that in there, just to kind of transition again. But yeah, I've really been enjoying it, and then I figured I'd probably show this like maybe quarterly or something like that, and I'll measure like how much I've done, so you can kind of just see the progress. And I'll hopefully be working on this all year, and hopefully I will want to work on it every Sunday for Scrappy Sunday. But yeah, I'm really loving how it's coming out so far. And for me, I chained 360 stitches. This is fingering weight, and I am using I believe this is a C hook. It's 2.75, and this is like a hook that I bought from Michael. So yeah, I've just really been enjoying it, and that's all I have for crochet today. Continuing on the blanket train, I have my Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart in my Prickly Owl bag, and I finally, well, I shouldn't say finally, but I decreased the blanket yesterday, and I am just loving how it's turning out. So the Habitation Throw is originally knit with fingering yarn, I think on a US 6, and it was really popular. I think it came out last year in 2019. It was supposed to be kind of like an advent throw if you wanted to use like your minis. That's how she kind of designed it. And I decided to hold my fingering weight double, and I am using Dragon Hoard yarn, and this was the A Court of Thorns and Roses October advent that I received from her last year, and I am just loving it. So I did go up to a US 8 when I was holding it double, and I actually, if you're curious to know what all the colors are, I do have it up to date so far on my Ravelry. So it's funny because I like purple. In high school that was like one of my favorite colors, but I'm like, it's an okay color to me now, but this purple right here, like this middle one, is just, I think so far it's like my favorite, and I love how it has these like little speckles or just like colorations through it. And yeah, I think it's just a really fun blanket, and I wasn't sure if I was going to block this once I was done, because I don't know, I wasn't sure how big it was gonna be, but I think I am gonna block it just to give it a little bit more length. So this is kind of how it is not blocked. I feel like if I stretch it out, it obviously like gives more length. I guess like what wingspan, I'm about 5'7", so you know, like it goes from like my arm to like over here, so like whatever half of 5'7" is and a little bit more. Yeah, and I think like it will be it will still be like a throw blanket. It's not going to be big enough to be like cuddle up in the middle of winter, but I think this is going to be perfect for when I am on my couch and I don't like things over my body, but I want my legs and feet to be warm. This is going to be perfect for when I'm like reading or if I'm knitting and watching TV. Yeah, so I'm just really enjoying it, and I'm really excited to use the other colors that are coming up because they're a little bit more like pinky and brown, and that's kind of just what I'm feeling right now for my color palette. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. And then my last project that I have to kind of show, or I guess I should say really quickly, I know the last time I podcasted I was also talking about like my winter honey shawl and how I wanted to do my Knitty Natty does make 30 for 30. So you knit for 30 minutes for 30 days on one project. And I was like, I'm gonna do that for my winter honey. And I like got through one like whole repeat of the pattern and I'm like, I'm gonna wait. So I totally fell off the winter honey bandwagon. But another thing that I am doing this year, this is in a Jenna Rose bag, and I am making a Pink Fizz by Andrea Mowry. So my knitting group that I have Zoom with every Thursday, we are doing like a new year, new skills knit along or make along. I think everyone's knitting, but just in case someone's crocheting. And I have knit 4 garments now, but all of them have been like raglan, and I haven't made a bottom-up sweater before. So that is my new skill for the year. And so that's where the Pink Fizz kind of comes in. And honestly, like, I worked on this the first day of the new year, and then I just didn't pick it up until this past week. And I finally joined. So you knit the bottom hem separately and the front hem separately, and it's in this ribbing, and then you join it in the round, and I've only done about like 3 rows since I joined it. So this is it so far. I am knitting this out of Knitting for Olive in the Bordeaux colorway, both the mohair and the fingering weight yarn. And then a lot of these like flower little whole stitch markers are from Lock and Lou, or not flower, leaf ones. And then this is also from Lock and Lou that I got from the Stress Knits advent calendar. And then this little birdhouse with the snow is from Lock and Lou. And I just really love how dressed up the sweater looks. Yeah, and I'm really excited to kind of make some progress on this and hopefully show you a little bit more. Sorry, I just had a little bit of an interruption, but I was just saying how for my needles, I am I used the US size 4 for the ribbing, which was recommended, and then for the body is a US size 6. I went down a US size 5. Did I swatch for it? Nope. I guess like I know for the Ronin, I went down a needle size for that, and I totally understand Andrea Mowry's gauge can be completely different from when she knit the Ronin. But I just decided to do it just because I know the Pink Fizz has a decent amount of positive ease in it, and so if it's a little bit tighter, I feel like because of the positive ease, it's not going to be like that big of a difference or that significant of a difference where I'm going to be like, should have used the US 4, US 6. So yeah, overall I'm just really happy with it. I'm really excited to just knit more and show you guys how it grows. And that's all I have for my making. As I was talking about earlier, I'm going to be trying to do a stash down for this year. And so one of the things that I've also been wanting to do is really kind of focus on what projects I'm working on and how many projects I have on my needles at a time. So I'm really trying to do like work on my granny stripe blanket on the weekends, but then just kind of have like 2 main projects. So one thing that's a little bit more simple, which is my Habitation Throw. I can like read and knit on that if I wanted to, or just like do whatever and knit on that. And then something that's a little bit more intricate, which is my Pink Fizz, which when I'm doing the lace, I have to pay a little bit more attention to, of course. So I guess I like watch TV and knit on that, but like there's no way I can obviously read and knit on that. So that's kind of like my goal, right? Was to just work on like 2 projects plus the granny stripes, like 3 projects. But I have been craving socks. And I was really trying to like hold out and be like, no, finish the Habitation Throw, and then I can like knit a pair of just vanilla socks. But the urge is just too much, and I actually haven't knit socks in a month, which is crazy because it's very rare that I don't have socks on my needles these past 2 years. I will say that I was getting a bit burnt out last fall on socks, and so I feel like maybe I really needed that break to just kind of focus on working on other projects. But I just need a pair of socks. I don't care if it takes me months to finish them, just knowing that I have a pair of socks on the needles, and if I want to do a couple rows, I can. I think I've really realized that socks are a very big comfort knit to me. I just love the way the fabric knits up when you knit on socks. Yeah, so it's just my comfort knitting. So I actually wound up some Stress Knits yarn last night. So this is in her Sweet Disposition colorway. And I have been wanting to knit the Don't Panic socks by Hygge Canyon. So Kim, if you're watching, I'm totally going to be casting on later today. And I've bought this yarn, and I was going to use this yarn for those socks. And I've been wanting to knit them since I think last summer or like last late spring, and I'm finally going to do it. So I'm just really excited to cast this on, and it's just a really beautiful colorway. And so yeah, that's kind of what I have for those projects. I also know I'm going to be casting on a shawl come February 1st for my mom for her birthday. So I think the pink fizz will probably take a little bit of a back seat because of that. But yeah, so it's like I want to like stick to a certain amount of projects, but then I also know there's some things that I need to make either for gift knitting, or like I want to make it. I don't have to make it, but I want to make it. I literally have this yarn for my mom for like a year now, so she needs to get a shawl. And I plan on casting on the Bennett Sister shawl by Lindsay Fowler. Yeah, and that's kind of like my dream knitting in the moment right now. And the last thing that I will kind of show before I start talking about books are my stash acquisitions. I bought some yarn, my very first order, from Sewrella Yarns, which I talked about on the last podcast. I also got some wool wash and some hand cream. I got the spruce scents, and in regards to like the hand cream, I'll be honest, I don't like the scent of the spruce, but the actual cream base itself is wonderful. It feels like it's gonna be greasy, but as soon as like you rub it in, it's not greasy at all, and it's just like really moisturizing, and it's kind of like a fluffy, creamy type of texture, and it's really nice. So if you were debating whether or not ever buying her hand cream, I would highly recommend. I think even when she has like updates, I'm still gonna buy hand cream, even if I don't buy yarn. I did order her January 1st Greatest Hits collection. I like bought like one skein of yarn, and I bought the frozen hand cream. I'm really excited to smell that. But I received her holiday treats collection a couple weeks ago, so I kind of wanted to show that. And so this is her peppermint bark colorway, and her candy cane cocoa. And I think eventually I would love to make a shawl with these two colors, and it could kind of be like a really nice like neutral but still festive shawl in the future. And then the other skein that I got was a sock set, and this is Christmas cookies. However, when I ordered this, I love the color. It's really fun and festive too. But when I ordered it, I didn't realize at the time that her sock sets were 100% superwash. And then I realized that for her Greatest Hits collection. So I don't know what I'm going to make with this quite yet. I would love to keep this as a set, but I'm not going to make socks with it because I don't feel comfortable knitting 100% superwash yarn. I really am a nylon person unless it's like a super sturdy yarn, like maybe a super sturdy like non-superwash, or maybe people add mohair to it. I suppose I could add mohair to this, so that's not completely off the table. But if you have any suggestions for like a sock set that is not socks, please let me know. The next order that I received was from Firefly Fiber Studios. I believe it's Studios, not Arts. Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. So if you are a watcher of the Caddy Jacks podcast, they like talk about that yarn shop a lot. I would love to go there once kind of COVID is no longer an issue. So yeah, that would be a dream to like go to that shop. She has a lot of like non-superwash yarns and just beautiful yarns. And she was having a sale, and I think I talked about this again in my last podcast, so sorry if I'm like repeating myself. She had like I believe it was a 20% off sale off of like all the yarn, and then sale yarn was like an additional 20% off. So it was a really great deal. And so I ended up getting a yarn that I've been wanting to try for a very long time, and there's already some cat hair on here, so I'm sorry. My cat, once I wound this up, my cat was like cuddling with it because I left it out. So this is Nightshades in the, I believe, the dashboard colorway, and it's like that really, it's just beautiful. It's a really beautiful blue. I don't know if the camera's like picking it up properly. It's actually, I think, a little bit more vibrant in person than what's showing up on the camera. Because I think it really is kind of showing up kind of navy, like black, but I don't know, it's a little bit brighter. I just love it. It's going to be a hat. But yeah, I knew that if I knit a sweater and then if I held my cats and stuff, it would not be good news. So I decided to just get one skein of that. And then I have some daylight. So I ended up getting 7 skeins of this. I only pulled out one though, because it's all put away. And this is in the caffeine colorway. And it has like just, it's supposed to be like specks of brown, and, or maybe it's, I thought it was supposed to be brown. It actually looks black. But it's so subtle and I just absolutely love it. And this is going to be a, well, I currently have it planned out to be a Sawyer's pullover by Sawyer Nordland. I think that's how you say her name. So I think regardless if I don't knit that pattern, I'm still gonna knit like one of her patterns with this because I just love her pattern so much. I love all the texture. I'm all about texture this year. Like I want to knit all of the lace and bobbles and cables and just I don't know, that's like either like something really simple like the forager or just something like super intricate like that. And I am going to embrace that because I've always loved that. That's what I've always loved about knitting, is really like the cables for the more complex patterns and stuff. And so yeah, I'm just really going to embrace that this year and knit all of the patterns that I want to. So anyways, after that ramble, yeah, and this is it's Cormo, and this yarn like blew me away. Like I've heard people talk about it and people like really enjoy it, and I've been wanting to work with this yarn. This one came out in the fall, and when I saw it I knew I wanted to make a sweater with this. And then with the Nightshades, when it came out I think a couple years ago, I'm like, man, I would really love to just like squish that yarn and feel it. And now that I have it, like it's like rustic but soft. It's just like, it's like crunchy but soft, if that makes sense. It's not, it doesn't feel scratchy at all, and it's just plump. And I would highly recommend if you were considering ever wanting to work with this yarn. So that at some point this year this will be casted on. And then the other thing that I got, and this was all thanks to Caddy Jacks, because they were like showing daylights and they talked about the 20% off sale. And then they were also talking about the new Lina magazine, and I was like, wow, I just feel like I totally just bought all this after well, I did. I bought it all after I watched their podcast, but I was definitely influenced greatly. But I am not mad about it, and I will buy all of this over again if I have a chance. So I got the new Lina magazine, and to be honest, I haven't really read that much in it yet. But I am like obsessed with this sweater. And I just kind of wanted to show it off. And yeah, I just think it's gorgeous. I mean, the photography in Lina is always beautiful. You can see how they I don't know if you can tell like the texture of the magazine. They like kind of changed it a bit. And like even like some of their fonts and stuff in here. So it's been interesting to kind of see it like upgraded a little bit, I guess, a little makeover. But yeah, there's just so many good patterns in here. this, I mean, this is a black and white photo, but like you could just tell that it's a beautiful sweater. And yeah, it's just, it's like hard because I want to be like, oh, look at this one, look at this one. It's like, no, that's the whole point of buying the magazine, is that if you want to knit these things, you have to buy them. And then the other thing that I got is actually not yarn, but fabric. So I bought this from Blackbird's fabric, and this is a, what do they call it? A viscose linen knoll, and it's 70% viscose, 30% linen. And it's in the cinnamon colorway, and I love this. It's gonna be super drapey. I saw Jacqueline Salem from Brooklyn Knit Folk, I guess now she's just Jacqueline Salem, talk about this material one day, and I was like, she was talking about how it's like nice and drapey, and I was like, you know what, I would love to make a hinterland dress with this by So Liberated. And it took a couple months to get to me. No fault of Blackbird's at all. They sent this out at the beginning of December, and the tracking just never, they had tracking on the post. They're based in Canada, and it just never updated. And so I knew with like the holidays and stuff, like things weren't getting scanned and things weren't really updating. So I waited like after the new year, and I was like, hey, I haven't had an update on my tracking, and I just want to make sure like it was sent out. And they were like super nice, and they checked into it, and they're like, yeah, like we sent it out. And the post office was like, I guess like backed up like 3 weeks. They said the Canadian Post, and they're like, but they're gonna like try to find it and like expedite it to you. And so I got it like very quickly after I reached out. So yeah, so I'm really excited. I don't know when I'm gonna sew this because I kind of want to make a quilt first. But I just love that I have it and that it's ready to be sewed. That is it for all of my making. I will be talking about books right now, but if that is not your thing, thank you so much for checking out my video. And as I said before, if you are interested in doing the giveaway, please leave a comment below saying either like one of your knitting goals this year or a pattern that you really want to knit. And if you can, please like and subscribe this video. That way it reaches out to more people. And if you are not interested in books, like I said, thank you so much, and I will talk to you next time. And if you are interested in books, I've been reading, not as strong, well, I've been reading pretty good, I think. I have a goal, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about my goal really quick. So if you have a Goodreads, I have a Goodreads. If you have one, follow me, or whatever. It is Nature's Cozy still, and my goal last year was to read 25 books, and I read 26. I finished that poetry book that I talked about in the last podcast, and then this year I've decided that I would like to read 36 books, so pretty much, you know, 3 books a month. I'm a little bit behind this month, but I'm also like, I might read 4 or 5 books in 1 month. Like, I have no idea what life's gonna bring me. But I should be able to finish at least 2 books today. So, I mean, this month. We have a week left, and I'm currently reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I'm not really gonna talk about this book. I just kind of wanted to say I was reading it. It's a beautiful book so far. I've been really enjoying it. It's a little bit slow paced here and there. But once I finish it, I'll talk more about it. This is also a book of the month club. I mean, you can also tell it's been loved because it's a little bit tattered on the edges. But this is also a book of the month club book of the month book. And if you are interested in book of the month and you've never used them before, I have a referral link down below, so you can get your first purchase for $5. And yeah, I like it. I like being introduced to new books and stuff that sometimes I just don't have time to keep track of. And then the book that I did finish this year was an audiobook, so that's, I guess that's another thing. My other goal for this year is to not just read 36 books, but to also read at least 1 physical book every month, and then listen to 1 audiobook every month. And then like if I read or listen to more books, that's totally fine, but that's kind of what I want my goal to be for this year. So the audiobook that I finished was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And it was, first of all, as an audiobook, it was fabulous. It was not what I was expecting when I first, actually I don't really know necessarily what I was expecting because I didn't really read that much into like the story. I just heard that it was a really good book and it had really pretty good reviews. And so it is about a reporter, and she is interviewing Evelyn Hugo, who is like this famous Hollywood actress. And she never has done a very detailed interview before, and it actually turns out that she wants this reporter to actually write her memoir. And so she kind of talks about like how she got into the industry, and you know why she had like 7 husbands, and just like the whole story. And it was so well written, and the narrators for the audiobook just did such a great job, and I would highly recommend. It's like hard to kind of talk about it because I don't know, I guess with any book it's hard to talk about because you don't want to give anything away. But there's just a lot of depth to the story, and I just think that it kind of also reminds us that we need to, like, you know, when we want things, like, we have to go out and get them. But then also like what she would do to protect the ones that she loved, or the things that she would do to protect the people that she loved, and also like have this wonderful like career as an actress. And so yeah, it was like a great book. I don't know what else to say about it, and I would highly recommend it. It's an audiobook. So that is it for my novels and readings and books and knittings and all those things. I am hoping to podcast every 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks depending. I know last year I think I started out pretty strong and having like a schedule, and then 2020 like was 2020. I would love to podcast every 2 weeks, but because of how I want to attack my projects this year and really just try to work on a few projects at a time, I don't know if I'd have like enough to show every 2 weeks, or like I would show progress but it might get a little bit monotonous. So I'm thinking like that's why every 3 weeks might be a little bit better in regards to podcasting, because you can see more progress and everything like that. But yeah, besides that, that's all I have. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day, weekend, rest of your month, and I will see you very soon in the coming weeks. Have a good one. Bye.
Excuse me, sir. What are you doing there? Okay, that's fine.